welcome to this talk titled One More Thing. And, when is an opportunity to start a talk with one more thing, if not today? And this is not your usual kind of talk because it's not about something technical mostly, but it's here to teach you how to build better slides, how to build better slides for developer conferences specifically. There is some stuff in here that applies to just regular slides, but a lot of it will be about how to create good slides for developer conferences. So, who am I? My name is Peter. I'm a developer advocate on the Firebase team at Google. And what I do for a living is I write code. I try to explain things. I play with Firebase. And I write books. And I've created a ton of presentations in my life, and that is why a lot of people have asked me, hey, can you teach us how to do them? Where I'm from, so this is not my house, although I hear it's got a pretty nice hotel in there. So this is in Hamburg. Michaela, actually, we were there, right? We visited. So this is the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg. Pretty stunning place to listen to music. At the moment, though, I live in Berlin, but I'll move back to Hamburg pretty soon. All right, so now tell me why. That is something that a lot of you might be thinking, tell me why you're giving this talk. So as I mentioned, I've done a ton of talks in my professional career. Here are some of the latest ones on my speaker deck homepage, but there is more and more. So this is when I joined Google. So I did a lot of work on Google+, rest in peace. And then at one point, I started doing stuff about iOS development and most recently about Firebase and iOS. But there is, more stuff and even more stuff that I did before. So, this one in particular, you might recognize because the robot is on here. So super happy to have that sticker. So that was a talk about Android development, so I've done that as well. So one of the reasons for this talk is to understand how you can build great animations, great looking slides, and not make your life harder than it needs to be. And this quote by Johnny Ive came to my mind: when something exceeds your ability to understand how it works, it sort of becomes magical. So by taking you behind the scenes and showing how I built the slides, I hope to inspire you and one, make it easier for you to understand how it's made and maybe get the curtains drawn away, but also enable you to build stuff like that yourself. And
I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years.
Okay, so I forgot to plug myself in.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years.
All right, so Steve Jobs saying this is the day that I've been looking for 2.5 years. This is the second time I'm giving this presentation, so I'm slightly less excited, but I'm still excited to do it because it's a different type of presentation. Because I will now sit down and actually finish my slides because they're not finished yet. So, but first of all, let us take a quick tour around the UI of Keynote. So first, let's look at the navigator. So the navigator is this area here in the left-hand side. And as you can see, there's a bunch of slides. So these are all my slides. And you will see that I've nested them. So I can now collapse them, which is super handy if you're navigating around, but also it's super handy when you want to move stuff around. So you've got a chapter in your presentation and you want to rearrange that chapter in your presentation, just nest everything in the chapter, collapse the thing, and then you can drag it around, making this a lot easier. So that is the navigator, and this is the view that you normally have. You can switch to slide only if you want to, or to the light table, which shows you all of your slides, or the outline, which in this case is not very helpful. So let's go back to the navigator. The next thing that you will notice is a view that for most people is not visible. And it's usually when you get into Keynote, it looks like this. But you saw that I had this object list here. So let's take a look at the object list and why it's so useful. So in the object list, you see all the objects that are on your slide, right? So like this. And now let me show you why this is so super useful. So I'm going to insert a new slide, and then let's add a couple of elements here. A shape, a circle, let's turn that into red. And now let's imagine that you're building out a somewhat complicated thing here, right? Let's add more shapes. So now let's imagine that you want to get hold of one of those elements here. And one way to do that is to move around your mouse and try to hit the circle here or the oval, but it might become very difficult if you have a busy slide. But there is an easy way. You have the object outline, so you can just select the element in the object outline, making it super easy. Another thing that is really cool in the object outline is you can drag stuff up and down in the object outline. And if I do that, it will come to the front. So one way to do that, what you usually do is you select the element in the slide, open the context menu, and then you can say send to back, and now it goes to the back. And you can see that it's at the bottom of the object list, but sometimes dragging it around like that is a lot easier. One more thing, you can also lock elements. So now these rectangles are locked and I can't modify them, can't drag them around accidentally, which is super useful as well. Right, let's move on. Rulers. So as you can see, I already have the rulers visible, but you can turn them on and off with Command R. And why are they useful? Well, they allow you to drag out guidelines. So again, let me add a new slide. Let me pull out a guideline, and let's pull this out to X 100. And then let's take another one and then go to the very, very right, and you can see it's 1920. So let's put it down to 1820. Ish. And then that makes it super easy for you to align stuff. So I can take this box here and I can drag it here, and you can't hear it, but my trackpad vibrates once I get here. So that makes it super easy to attach that object here, or I could easily make sure that it perfectly aligns in the middle here. Let's do it like that, and then, right, and even you will notice as I drag this element around, I get this yellow line here for aligning. So this is also arranged in relativity to those elements here. Cool, so that is why rulers are really important. Another tip, in the toolbar, you will notice that I've got two elements here in the toolbar, and let me zoom in, play and window. and remove background that are not in the default toolbar. Why is this cool? So let's do play in window. So if you do play in window, I get this controller window here, and then my presentation is running in this window here. And that is cool because one, I can resize my window, and let's assume I'm on a Zoom call. I'm in a Google Meet call, and I want to present a specific window. Then I can run my presentation in that window. I can have all the other windows. I have my Google Meet window, I have the chat window, and so on and so forth, sitting around. On my large monitor, I can see my presentation and present just the presentation. That is super handy. It's also super handy if you're building your presentation, because then you don't have to go into full screen presentation mode, but you can play your presentation in that little window while looking at your script or whatever. So that is really, really useful. So let's get back. And then the remove background tool. So let me quickly find an image. So we are at an iOS conference. So let's find an Apple. They're already punched out. This one looks good. All right, copy image, paste the image. So this looks nice, but let's imagine that I have a different color. No, it doesn't look nice anymore. But I can select the image, and then I can click on remove background, and boom, it's punched out, just like that. So this is super useful. I mean, if you have more complicated stuff, then you still want to use Photoshop or your other favorite image tune-up tool. But this is pretty useful. Okay, so after we found a way around the UI, it's time for some basic techniques. So the first one is distributing objects. So how about we try to recreate this grid here? So the first thing that we can do is we can take this element here and we can copy it a couple of times. And I'm putting them, in some sort of a grid here, but they're not perfectly aligned, as you will see. So one way to align them is to just select them, go into the context menu, align objects, and then align them like that. Go and select those elements here, align them like this, and that's okay, right? So obviously the gap here and the gap here is not perfect. So why don't we do it differently? So you can also hold down the Option key while you're dragging something, and that creates a copy. So I'm holding down the Option key, and now I have a copy of the element, and I'll drag it out to, let's see, so we started at 9:10, so let's drag it out to 11:10. This is easier with a mouse. And then do that again. And now I get the distance markers because you'll notice those yellow arrows. And do that again to the other side and again. And then the top was 490, so we'll go up to 290. Like that. And now everything looks a lot nicer because I was able to, use the guidelines and the command drag gesture. So that is how you arrange objects. Let's talk about animations. moving stuff around. So let's move this element around from here to there. Make it bigger, smaller, make it really big, just in case somebody was in a slump. So let's try it. So the first way, and that is the typical way how people try to implement this, is by using actions. So you can go in and go into the animate section here, and you can add an action, and you can say, well, I want to move it around like that. And that adds this line here. So let's move it here, and then you can click on that button here to add another action. So let's move it here, and we can also make it a little bit bigger, and then move it to another place here. Let's see, what else? We might, want to change the opacity, and then do another move to around here. Try to make it a lot bigger. And then let's see, last time I tried to change the color and didn't work out. Let me see if I can somehow get it working. Nope, doesn't look like. Okay, but anyways, let's play it. So every time I click, it moves around, opacity changes, it gets bigger. Okay, so that is not bad, but this is a lot better. So let me show you how you can make your life a lot easier by using Magic Move. So let's take this element, and then instead of using actions, I will duplicate the slide here. So duplicate the slide, and then indent it so I know that this is a sub element here, and then I'll just move it here. And then on the original slide, I will select Magic Move. So it's already selected here. So that is my transition. Then I can make another copy of the slide, move the element somewhere else, change the size, duplicate, move it somewhere else, and now let's make it real big. And also, I think now the color change should work. And let's play that. And that was a lot easier, right? So, and that's a basic technique that you can use for a lot of things. It works for shapes. It also works for text. And you will see later on in the presentation that you can use this to your advantage. So, for example, now you might also know how we can create this animation, right? So we have the original shape, then we have a Magic Move transition to here, and then we have the previous one again. And that is how I was able to make it pulse. Let's play it again. So that's the initial slide, everything into one, and back, and back. You can also do things like, for example, if you want to make something appear, right? So let me take a screenshot of this here, and then drag it over into Keynote. And let's say I want to move this in from the bottom. So what I will do, and let me create a new slide for that. New slide. Let's take this one. So let's say on this slide, I'm introducing something, and on the I want this to appear. So let me put a text here, my fab app. And now I don't see my image anymore. Where is it? I removed it. Well, let's take a new screenshot. There we go. All right, so Now I will put it here and move it into the invisible area somewhere here, and then duplicate the slide. And on the duplicate, I will move it in like this. And then I will apply a magic move transition. And that's how you slide stuff in. You can slide it out again if you want. So one more recommendation. So the default transition duration is 2 seconds, and I recommend 0.75. Well, thank God we agreed on the comma separator. So that's a lot more dynamic. Cool. Multi-slide animations. So recently I was in Turin, and there is this very beautiful place in the middle of the center. And you can do stuff like that. You can zoom in really close. So this is a 4K picture. And you can see that you can zoom in really nicely. So that is a multi-slide transition that you can also do using Magic Move. So as you can see, I've got my original image here, and then I've got the same image, and I just zoomed in a lot more, zoomed in again, and the transition between all those slides is just Magic Move. And the one trick that I used in order to mask the image, because you'll see that there is this white frame around it, is that I used, this white box here to mask it out, which becomes really useful here because once I remove it, you'll see that it goes right to the border. So that's not what I wanted. I wanted to have this picture frame around it. And you could even create an effect like a Polaroid picture if you did it like that. Yeah, and then panning, that's also possible. So if you have a panorama picture like this one, and then you can pan around, and you can animate stuff in the foreground because you can do whatever you please. So this is a very wide panorama. And again, all I did was move the image around across all those slides and use Magic Move. So there is one more. Because it looks very beautiful. Great. So you can use multi-slide animations for stuff like that, right? So not just for beautiful images, but for explaining stuff that happens in, in your application. So as I'm walking through all those things on the left side, I've got a video on the right-hand side, and that video is continuing to play. So how do you do that, right? So you don't want the video to start over and over again on each single slide. So the trick to do that is when you insert the video, you can go into the format properties and then select play movie across slides. And that means the video starts playing on the very first slide, and then on all the following slides, you need to insert the same video, obviously, or make a duplicate of the slide, and then it will just continue playing. And as you can see, I have all those other things going on the left-hand side. And by the way, this is one of the slides where you realize how useful the object outline is, because it allows you to, actually, manipulate those objects here without going crazy. Right, working with shapes. So this is a reasonably nice looking slide. But this one looks a lot better. So let's see if we can replicate this. But first, we need to talk about shapes. So I'm going out on a limb here, and I'll tell you that these shapes are all you ever need: rectangle, rounded rectangle, circle, triangle, and right triangle. But there is one more, and that is someone special. Anyone here wants to venture a guess as to what this thing is called? Yeah, polygon is good, but what specific polygon? It's a pentagon, right? Yeah. And there is someone else very special, the rounded rectangle. So why are they so special? Let's see. So if you take a normal shape like the square, for example, and let me make the slide a little bit bigger like that. You will see it's got those handles on the corners and on the edges, but nothing else. But if you select the rounded rectangle, you will see that it has this green dot. And that green dot allows you to set the corner radius, right? So if I drag it all the way across, I have a circle. If I drag it all the other way, I've got a square. And I can move it down to 10 or 8, and then I get this really nice corner radius. So if you have anything with corner radii or radiuses, then please make sure that you use the same corner radius on all your objects, specifically when you resize them, because there might be people in the audience whose eyes will start bleeding if they see different corner radiuses. So that's one thing. The other thing is the pentagon also has this green dot. So what happens if we drag that? So we can go down to 3, and then we have a triangle, and we can have more. So how many do you think we can have? 10? No, these go up to 11. Yeah. So that's pretty useful. So you can create some really fun things. So for example, if you have this sexagon, then you can create really beautiful things if you arrange them in this kind of like beehive structure, like that. And then you can colorize them, add gradients and stuff like that. So really cool. The next step is logic operators, right? So if you take those two shapes, and then you can apply a couple of operators on them. You can unite them, you can intersect them, you can subtract them from each other, and you can exclude them. And that gives you all sorts of ways to build new shapes. So let's see how we can turn this into this. Well, firstly, I should have removed that one. Actually, let's use this background picture because we're now no longer in Turin, but here. So I was playing around with this before the presentation, and let's see if I can get it to work. So the first thing is we actually want to use a shape, and then instead of using the image itself, create a shape with the background fill. So I'm going to fit the slide, drag the thing across the entire width of the slide, all the way down, and then I'm going to use an image fill. And for some reason, it already picked the correct image, but if you didn't pick the image before, you can just select it from your disk, and there we go. All right, so now I'm going to pick my good friend, the pentagon, turn it into a hexagon, hold down the Shift key to resize it while maintaining the aspect ratio, and then I'm going to place it right here. And then I'm going to make it white. Let's see. leave it black. Okay, and then put it next to each other. Use the arrow keys to create a distance. And then select all three of them, make a copy, align the copy here, create another copy, place it here, and another copy, place it here, and another copy, put it here. All right, and then for playfulness, let's place one here. All right, so now let's see if this actually works out, because and I think it's intersect. Nope. Okay, we need the other way around. Oh, wait. Let's see. Nope. Nope. Oh, wait. I think I remember how I did it. Yep, that's the way how to do it. Okay. No, I didn't mask. So I think the way I did it was I inserted a white shape at the background and then I combined it with that. So let's see. All right. Arrange, format, shapes. There we go. So now we've got this thing here, and then we can take our text, place it here, and then obviously we should swap out this text because that makes a lot more sense. And now we turned our nice background picture into something that looks a lot more exciting. Let's move on to how to work with code, because this is a developer conference after all. So we want to achieve beautiful colored code slides like this one, and you can already see why working with code is such a challenge, because it really depends on the environment, right? So for example, here, the projector is not bad. It's actually pretty decent. But I don't know, from your perspective, which text can you read easier? The light one? Yeah. So, right? So dark mode, we all love dark mode, but sometimes light mode is just the better option. So how can we achieve this? I've seen a lot of people going to the internet to use code highlighters on the internet and then copy stuff into their slides, but it's actually a lot easier. So first of all, go into Xcode, and it also works for other IDEs. And then you should make a copy of your favorite color scheme. So I've got a dedicated color scheme, so I use that color scheme, and then I create a copy. And then I crank up the font size to 32 pixels. Then I copy everything, and then paste it here. And that looks great, right? But there is a problem. And yeah, I think you can see it. So there is a lot of stuff going on in the background here. So let's actually find out what the problem is. So if I take this red rectangle here and move it in the background, you will notice that the text background is the text background that I copied from Xcode. So the way to fix it is to go in and select the entire text here, go to text, click on this cork icon, go to the text background color, and then select this thing at the corner right here. Let me zoom it up. And that is transparency. So once I select that, this is gone. At the last conference, I showed this to Zach, and he said, "Why don't you change the transparency in Xcode?" And he's right. So let's go to Xcode and let's take a look at that. So here's something that I will show later today. Here is a piece of code for an LLM-driven text adventure. So let's go to the game engine here. And now let's go into my themes editor. So this is the font that I use for presenting. So usually if I work at home, I will use this font size, but it's virtually impossible for you to read. Even you sit closest to the screen, very difficult to read, right? So you want to, crank this up. But what I really want is to change the background color. So let's go here, and in Zach mode, we already did this, right? So I made a copy of my theme here, plus duplicate this theme, call it demo, and then I will select all the things here, and then I will go into the background, and then I will set the opacity to 0, and that should give me this really, and maybe also I should crank up the font size. So let's go for 36. And then I can copy this piece of code here, go into my presentation. Well, let's make a duplicate of this one. Remove this, place it here, and you can see that it's transparent. So no matter what my background color is, this works fine. Already, you knew about this, right? So thanks, Zach, for giving me this great idea. Callouts. So you've seen callouts in many presentations. Apple uses them. A lot of other people use them. So let's take a look at how they look like and how they work. So if you want to talk about a concept, you draw a rounded rectangle around it with transparent background. You can move it around. Again, that's using Magic Move. So you can do this without getting crazy. And to do that, let's take our code that we had here, put it here, and then let's create a highlighter. So I'm going to use a rounded rectangle like this one, and then I will go in, change the color fill to no color fill, and then I will have a border, and I will use a line, and then you can select whatever you want. Let's go for a straight line here. And then it's probably a good idea to use a rather solid line. And then you can move it here. And now you already realize it's pretty difficult for me to see what's really going on. So don't be afraid to zoom in a lot and then just place it here. You can use the arrow keys to move stuff around and then make this a little bit larger. And I think the corner radius should be 8 maybe. So this looks nice. So, and then, let's move this around. So I'm going to make a duplicate of the slide. And then on the next slide, I want to highlight a different part of the slide. So let's say I want to highlight this entire line down here. So make this smaller, like that. Go to the first slide, make sure I use Magic Move. Boom, like that. But what if you want to have like this little glass effect in your highlighter, right? So let's say that I want to have a background. So let's do a color fill and let's use this yellowish color. And now you realize, oh, it doesn't work. But if I move this to the background, just below, and now you realize yellow is not a great color. So let's take a different color, maybe That's also not great. Yeah, it's the color of the text is the problem, really, right? But if we move this to the front and then put it behind here, I think that should work better, just for demonstration purposes. So what I want to get at, some people might use a color fill and then just reduce the opacity to make the thing shine through. That's not what you want. You want to put the stuff in the background. So move it behind the text, and then it's a lot easier to actually read the text. And also the text will not be impacted by whatever fill color you use for your highlighter. So always pay attention to that. Move your highlighter behind your code. Yeah, all right. So that is this kind of call out. Now, let's go to something more complicated. So this is from a presentation that I did on SwiftUI and how to build components. And on the left-hand side, you see that I'm iterating on this code. So there is stuff going on and it's moving around, and that's kind of like okay-ish. And you probably guess that I'm using magic move to achieve this. But there is stuff like this, and it doesn't look really nice. So how can we improve this? So let me show you how you can do that. So first of all, we need a new slide. And let's use white in this case. And then I'm going to, let's start at the beginning. So I will copy this entire block of code here, and then I will insert it here. So, and now I want to animate to the next slide. So I'm going to make a duplicate of this one, and let me actually insert a divider here so we don't get confused. So the next step of the code was this part here. And let me copy the entire code, go here, and paste it here. And now I should have used a guide to make that easier for me. So let's do that again. So I'm going to drag out the guide to 100. And another guide from the top to 100. So now it's super easy for me to align this in the top left corner. And then I can copy the guides, go to the next slide because I forgot, and then I can just paste the guides. Boom. All right, so let me align this here. And now let's play around with magic move. So add magic move. Let's see how this works. Oh, it's the same text? I took the same. Well, wait. It's going from VStack to HStack. Okay, let's take a bigger change. Yeah, let's take this. Okay, so duplicate the slide, remove this, paste it here, align it, magic move, and then play. So what it did is it used the fade effect because it was difficult for it to understand the difference, right? So let's see how we can make that better. So instead of saying by object, we can say by word. So that is a lot better, right? So it detects that a lot of the code is actually the same, and it moves it over, and it inserts this one line with the list, and then it adds a new curly brace at the very end. So that is nice. Let's look at another way to do this. So we can choose by character. So here in the match configuration, let's do by character. Let's see what happens now. So it's literally the same, but sometimes it works better. Okay, so let's add another piece of code. Let's use this piece of code here. Duplicate the slide. Insert our code. Align it. And then see what happens. So add magic move. Yeah, all right. Okay, so this is the default configuration. And again, you see that it needs to use the fade effect to make it happen. If we use by word, it also uses fading. And if we use by character, it's again the same. So what if we wanted to do it slightly more fancy? So I think in the next step, we add more code, right? So yeah. Let's take this, duplicate the slide, insert this piece of code here. And now if we add magic move, it will be really challenged. Yep, by word. Yeah, exactly. All right, so this is what I wanted to show you. So if we have this, like, there is no meaning behind this transition, right? It's very, very confusing. Very confusing. Why does it do that? And even if we use by character, it's even more confusing, right? It's like completely distracting people. So if we put this code side by side, it's easier to see what remains the same, right? So a lot of the stuff remains the same, but we insert something. So let me show you how I would implement inserting the state line, this one here. So we can tell this better apart. I will insert this circle here, drag it down here, make a copy, and indent. So now I want to animate the left part and insert this line here. So first of all, I'm going to copy that line, go onto my second slide, and then insert this line here, right? So this is new. But if I animate between those things, it appears like that, but I want a typing animation. So what I will do is I will remove this part, copy this, and then take all of this, insert it into a new block, align this block on top of that, and then use my arrow keys to make sure it's really aligned, like this. Then go into the background. Oh, nope. Don't. And then delete the stuff in the background. And then I'm going to take this, put it into a new block. Here, move it here. Make sure it's aligned. And then add the keyboard effect. Go into the background, delete this line. And now let's see. There we go. And that was just one little thing. So let's look at this video, and then I'm going to show you how I did that. I really love SwiftUI. I can now write code much faster and it's easier to read as well. So if you love SwiftUI as much as I do, you will be excited to hear that we've recently made it easier to use Firebase Remote Config with SwiftUI. So instead of having to write a lot of code like this, all you have to do is use the remote config property wrapper. First, define a local variable. Then use the remote config property wrapper to connect it to your remote config parameter. To fetch and activate new remote config values, I will just call fetch and activate as soon as the view appears. The property wrapper will receive any new value for the key it is configured for, and thanks to SwiftUI state management, the UI will be updated accordingly. Oh, and did you know we also support real-time updates for remote config now? That's something I will show you in the next video. But first, let me tell you that I really... Okay, so it's a loop around. So let me see if I can quickly find the presentation that I used for driving this. So videos, bytes, and then... It's not this one. Nope. Was it 19? Nope. Nope. Way too many. Let's see. Getting close. I think it's the next one. Yeah, that's the one. All right. So you can see that there is a lot of slides. And I also made use of timing, right? So in the right-hand side, you can see that I start the transitions automatically, and I made sure that the timing is perfect so that it autoplays. So if I play this, you will see that it animates and it autoplays the entire thing front to end, and it's perfectly timed to match with the video that recorded in the studio, so that I basically just had to drag this into the master video. And if you look at what's going on in the outline here, you can see that everything is cut into tiny bits and pieces. So for example, here we've got 4 different elements of code that are perfectly aligned, and there's even more to make it happen. And it's even down to being the curly braces sometimes standing alone in a different in a separate element to make it happen, so you can move them around. So it's a lot of work. So it's definitely not something that you can do quickly. All right. So that was it. But before I let you go,
But there is one more thing.
You understand the nature of an object so much more when you understand how it came to be. Of course, as designers, you live in the future. It's not that we are not interested in the work we've done before. It's just we are so consumed by what we haven't done yet.
and that was it.